Welcome to Cancel It Out, where the more we talk about government and society, the more you may want to start drinking. And if you have a drinking problem, please reach out to somebody. I'm Scott, the bald and bearded one, joined by my co-host Max. We've got a lot to cover today. It's nearly impossible to get to everything, but hey, we do our best. Today, we're going to talk about national news, how a corpse gaslit the entire country on national TV, blowing out the government spending with the American Rescue Plan, and Kentucky legislators who hate free speech. In local news, the new treasury candidate makes her campaign public. Cincinnati mayoral race drama. Can't wait to hear. The Cincinnati Public School Board in hot water for sending some texts. Brent Spence Bridge still sucks, and what Covington has to say about it. Cincinnati going green. And the Bonehead of the Week, a Republican from Texas. Our cultural philosophical discussion revolves around, once again, cancel culture. This will be the last part for a little bit on this topic, so I hope you enjoy it. But for now, let's go.
All right, everybody, welcome to Canceled Out. And, we've got some exciting stuff going on, whatever that phrase is, Would like to proudly announce that we are now streaming on 6 different platforms, both on your computer and on your mobile device.
We're famous, bro.
Right? We're on Spotify. We're on Google Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, Radio Public, and Pocket Casts. And then right now we're getting reviewed by Apple to be on their podcast app and iHeartRadio. So we're going to be everywhere here before long. And they're going to regret approving us to be on their platform. So I'm sure. I don't know for a fact.
I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Right? No, I'll just put it out there. That way I can look awesome if it comes to be true. So be sure to check out our social media on Facebook and Instagram too. There's the links on there that you can connect to your favorite app or streaming service. Also, Scott, just became a new brand ambassador for the National Concealed Carry Association. So I've reached out to them, let them know about the show, and we'll see. Hopefully we can get something going. And I
actually didn't even ask you before. What does it mean to be an ambassador for the?
It's really a social media thing. So mostly products placement type stuff and whatever else. So that'll be on my personal thing, unless they choose to sponsor the show or whatever, or if we work something out, it'll just be on an ongoing basis. But hopefully we can work something out and get them some more exposure too. They're a Second Amendment group, obviously, and we very strongly support that here. And they perfectly align with our values. And so hopefully we can get them on show or do an interview or something crazy,
Nice.
But anyway.
Hold up, I got an announcement too.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. So last week, as I'm going to do pretty much every week, I've talked about how people need to be getting involved locally as much as possible. One of the things that I made the action item last week was to find out who your precinct executive is, and then a few listeners. We already have listeners.
I know, right?
Yeah. Pointed out that I said to go do this thing, and I didn't even tell them how. So, here's how.
Our bad.
First thing you need to do is you need to find out what precinct you're in, okay? And the way to do that is to go to votehamiltoncounty.ohio.gov, and you're going to look under the Voting Information tab for where to vote. When you plug in your address, it's going to tell you your precinct, and it's going to be a number followed by a letter. So, for example, it could be 1A, or 2F. Once you find that out, then you want to call the Board of Elections, and the number is 513-632-7000. You could also call the Hamilton County GOP office, which is 513-381-5454. So the reason I bring all this up, again, we talked about this last week, but I'm going to reiterate the importance of the precinct executive position, which I only just learned about a couple of months ago.
Me too.
Is the precinct executive is the ground game for all elections. That's for your local elections, your state elections, your federal elections. Again, I'll tell you, the Republicans, they're just disorganized on this front. Very many seats open that are really just up for grabs. So if you want to get involved and you notice that your precinct executive seat is empty, I mean, you could very easily fill that seat. And what's great about that is that means that you have a say in directing the party and redirecting it towards your values, which I think is incredibly important, because you see a lot of these Republicans, and we'll get into my disappointment of the week later on in the show, which I actually forgot to put in the notes, but I'll make sure to remember, because I'm so frustrated about it.
And I have a sound clip, so
yeah. So, but then once you've at least find out who your precinct executive is, just so that you know, and then you'll want to figure out how to contact them so you can find out how you can get involved. And I mean, I don't know how active some of these guys are. You may find out that you have a precinct exec and they're not particularly active, which means that you could run against them and probably win really easily, as long as you're active. Yeah, that's really all you need.
Yeah, you got to do stuff.
But exactly,
you can't just hold the office. Do stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right. So the precinct, I'm going to finish off with this and then we'll get into today's topics. But the precinct executive, again, they vote for the county leadership for the Republican Party. And that means that, and then the Republican Party in Hamilton County votes for the leadership in the state. Okay, so if you get in on the ground and you're directing what leadership represents you in Hamilton County, then you're going to have a better chance of seeing your values reflected statewide and potentially in the federal government as well. So this is where it starts. It's not a matter of yelling about what Biden's doing anymore, which we're going to do, of course, because it's, I mean, it's fun.
That's what we do.
Let's be real. It is fun.
Yeah.
But you got to do more than that.
Yeah.
You do. You got to do more than that. So anyway,
and
that's all.
We are doing more than that too. Don't just think that we just sit here and pontificate on our show and whatever else. Like, we're actually involved in this locally. So you'll see us out there if you go out there too.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. So let's do exactly what we were talking about and yell and scream about what Biden's doing. Mainly lying and gaslighting the nation on TV this past week. I mean, what better than a president could do that? It's been a long 4 years since I've had a president do that. So I'm ready for it. I'm excited for it. And
I'll tell you what, I mean, Biden gives us content, if nothing else.
Oh, absolutely. And see, that was the thing. And
I mean, not to say that Trump doesn't give content.
Right,
for sure, Trump
absolutely.
does. And I mean, not anymore since he's left office.
Right.
But
I'm
as president, he
disappointed.
certainly gave you a lot to talk about. But Biden does the same thing.
I mean, yeah. Well, I think that's just part of politics too. Is there's politics has really devolved anymore into, hey, let's dunk on each other and whatever else, which I think is completely ridiculous.
Always been like that.
Yeah, well,
our
even
founding
more so,
fathers
though.
used to sling
sure.
just nastiest crap all over each other during their debates. So,
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if you ever seen that movie Lincoln.
Oh, absolutely.
As I understand it, the way they were debating during that is much more realistic.
Yes.
To what it actually was going on, like how they would debate going that far back, right? So it's actually a lot more cordial, just in terms of the process on the floor. Now they'll still sling stuff at each other, but usually they don't need to do it there. It's better to do it on social media where all your followers can see it. So that's probably why it seems like it's worse now.
Yes and no. I think it's in more places now for sure, and that's probably why it seems worse. But the reason to do it on the floor is because it's protected speech and you cannot be prosecuted for it. So, yeah. So, there you go. That gives you a little context of anytime you hear somebody, no matter who they're working for, say something on the congressional floor.
Right. So, what did Biden say? I didn't even see it.
So, Biden, good old Joe, good old Sleepy Joe, basically started his whole thing with a lie, with a bunch of lies. The lie, it was a 24-minute speech, and it just never stopped. It never stopped coming. Like, it's just a train wreck. I encourage everybody to go see it and go listen to it. You'll get the full context of these sound clips.
Did he take questions?
Oh, absolutely not.
No?
Oh, absolutely not. No, as soon as he was done, there was a long shot of him ambling down the hallway of these flags and whatever else into the other end of the White House or wherever he was.
He's really hard to watch. Like,
he really is.
I know that the Democrats will say that that we had to have been embarrassed by Trump, and I understand that there are some Republicans that would get embarrassed, and sometimes I would cringe too at the things that Trump would say. But like, also at the same time, you know, at least he was fiery, right? At least he was a fighter. At least he like didn't lay down for crap.
Well,
but you see Biden, and he's like. It's just hard to watch.
He could put together 2 sentences, too. That's a big plus for the president. It's really sad. I mean, I make jokes about his cognitive decline, but in reality, my family has Alzheimer's, dementia, and all that, too. So I've seen it firsthand, and this is really what it looks like. But
but would you let your family go out in front of cameras like that and just embarrass and humiliate themselves and lose any shred of dignity they even ever had?
Right, and that's exactly why I think, honestly, the people in charge of him and handling him, including his own wife, should be prosecuted for this kind of stuff. Because this is elder abuse. I mean, that's just my opinion, but this is elder abuse. Like, you don't just do this to somebody, especially somebody who's lived in the public life for the last 40 or 50 years.
Don't get yourself somebody who loves you like Joe Biden loves Joe Biden. Please don't do that to yourself.
Before long, Jill and Kamala might be in league together. I don't know. But
so what were the
you heard it here first. So here's how Biden starts off his speech.
A year ago, we were hit with a virus that was met with silence and spread unchecked. Denials for days, weeks, then months. That led to more deaths, more infections, more stress, and more loneliness. Photos and videos from 2019 feel like they were taken in another era.
So check me on this, but I seem to recall Trump shutting down travel from China.
Absolutely.
While Biden was condemning that as being xenophobic.
Absolutely.
So, met with silence? I mean, bro, your suggestions were bad. They were just bad, and they were tantamount to ignoring the problem.
Right.
Whereas Trump took almost immediate action.
Right. Yeah, and not only that, why was it met with silence? What were we talking about this time last year? We're talking about impeachment.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, all over the news media. You can look at this point last year, the corona was only starting to become widely known. So, yeah, when he says it was met with silence, it's kind of... This is why I say he begins his speech with gaslighting the American public and just lying to them. This is not spin. This is intentional lying. Because if you paid any attention to what was going on, you know that that's absolutely not the truth.
Right. Not to go on a side topic here, but as far as that impeachment goes, I just kind of feel like the Democratic Party was just abusing their constituents with that. Yeah. Abusing their base. Yeah. Because after it was all said and done, I heard a couple of people that were like, "Wait, he didn't get removed from office?" And it was like they actually thought it was going to happen. And I sat there and I went, I knew it wasn't going to happen. Are you not paying attention? Of course he wasn't going to get removed.
Well, but see, this is part of the marketing technique of the mainstream media, too. What did they call it? They called it impeachment. Well, that's only half true of what, as opposed to what actually happened. He was impeached in the House twice. He was not impeached twice.
No.
Impeached would have been impeached in the Senate and convicted as a criminal.
You're wrong on that, buddy. He was, in fact, impeached. He wasn't indicted, or he wasn't convicted in the Senate. But impeached just means that he was sent to trial by the House. That's all impeachment means. Here, I'm going to fact check it. I'm going to fact check it for you.
I'm
keep going.
More than happy. That's fine. But he was not convicted in the Senate.
No.
Either way. Which is what people consider as impeachment. Is what people understand as impeachment, should say. In society at large. So, yeah. I'm not saying he wasn't impeached.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood what you were saying.
Yeah, no. He was impeached in the House. Right. For sure. Twice. But as far as going through the entire process, no. Because the Senate struck it down immediately.
Because that's the thing. A lot of people think impeachment just means, he's about to go.
Right.
And it's like...
Well, that's what I mean.
No, and remember, Bill Clinton was impeached too.
Right. That's the way they sold it. So, yeah. And that's the way they sold it to the public. And that's why people were like, he's not leaving office? It was like, no.
And it's like, you guys are just going to keep going for this abuse. I just keep voting for this abuse. I don't understand why you do it.
Well, I mean, look at it. It's the biggest thing is that 2020 was a political election year for the president. And what do you got to do nowadays to get elected, apparently, is to sling as much mud and do as much as you can to the other guy as possible. And between Corona, between the impeachment and everything else, that's all that this was.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can now see, especially when we'll talk about the stimulus bill here in a second, anybody can now see that this is not going the way that even Biden promised it would.
Of course not.
like of course
not.
You know, so yeah.
I mean, they're still going to sing him the praise that
yeah.
he doesn't deserve.
Yeah, that's
They're going to give
be
him full
part
credit
of,
for the vaccine.
Of course.
When he
Well,
deserves little to none.
This is what it was, and Shapiro had the best example of what this speech really was. The further we get along in it, we'll hear some of it. But he said that it was the Democrats and Joe Biden wheeling himself out in front of the parade that was already going, and then taking credit because the parade was there.
Yep.
You know, and that's exactly what I couldn't think of a better way to put it, because that's
a
exactly
great
what
analogy.
this
Yep.
is. So let's finish up this clip real quick.
The last vacation, the last birthday with friends, the last holiday with extended family. While it was different for everyone, we all lost something. A collective suffering, a collective sacrifice. A year filled with the loss of life and the loss of living.
Okay, yeah. So if you have to make emotional appeals, you're
so
hiding the ball.
cringy.
Yeah, it's awful. Like,
It is. Like,
the fact that you just have to go there. Like, we all know, of course we all know, you know, that people have died. People die every year, though. That's not to minimize the effect, because and in a lot of ways this was especially horrible because, like, Biden even said, people couldn't even have funerals. Like, that's awful. I could not imagine. Thankfully, I was not, part of the segment of America that had to deal with that.
I've seen that.
Yeah, but it was absolutely terrible. So then he continues on with talking about more loss. And this is especially, well, you'll see.
You know, you've often heard me say before, I talk about the longest walk any parent can make is up a short flight of stairs to his child's bedroom to say, I'm sorry, but I lost my job. Can't be here anymore. Like my dad told me when he lost his job in Scranton. So many of you have had to make that same walk this past year.
Thanks
you lost
to
your
who?
job.
That was going to be my point.
Bro, thanks to who?
I was going to say, who are the people who are exasperating this exact situation?
Like,
Advocating for year-long shutdowns and advocating that you never leave your home during this entire ordeal.
Like, how insulting. Like, imagine being one of
Exactly.
those parents that actually did lose their job because the government said, you don't get to work anymore.
Yep.
And then the government comes back and says, you're such a hero and you had to make this sacrifice. It's like, I didn't freaking want to.
Right.
You made me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, screw you,
And not only
dude. Don't
that-
patronize me. I want my freaking work back. I want my
Exactly.
paycheck back.
Exactly. Well, right. I have
And this
bills to pay.
$1,400 isn't going to cut it.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
You closed your business, facing eviction, homelessness, hunger, a loss of control, maybe worst of all, a loss of hope. Watching a generation of children who may be set back up to a year or more because they've not been in school because of their loss of life.
Not in school. Why, Joe? Why? Because your buddies at the teachers' unions. That's why.
Okay. And he
And you're
keeps going-
supporting
And he
them.
keeps going with this. And it's like, dude, do you not actually see what you're saying?
Yeah.
Do you actually think that you're conveying some actual message of compassion and empathy with these people when you're
Right.
the one who caused this? Like, not the one,
Well,
but you were on the side of
Yeah.
shutting down the economy.
Right.
And you don't seem to be on the side of, relieving a whole lot of these restrictions that
Right.
they've had. So, I
Right.
do you? It's
But,
absolutely maddening.
Yeah, this is what I call one of those moments where you have to think like a Democrat, because that means just ignoring all objective reality and only listening to what the president's saying at this point. But if we would just fall in line and do what they say,
shut
Joe says that we will be able to do stuff.
He'll let us have our 4th of July back.
Yeah, he'll let us outside. We'll get to that in a second. But, I mean,
Yeah.
just something as simple as wear a mask, America.
Too often, we've turned against one another. A mask, the easiest thing to do to save lives. Sometimes it divides us.
Because you keep calling us Neanderthals.
Right? Well, and not only that, the evidence let's just be very intellectually honest here. The evidence that masks save lives is pretty scant. You can find studies on both sides of that argument. So, whether or not they work, whatever your personal belief is fine. But understand that there are just as many studies and medical science out. There's just as much medical science.
Well,
out
and
there
you don't
to
hear
prove
about
it's
it
wrong.
because, and that's
Right.
the thing. Like you'll
Right.
hear these guys come out and say, "Well, all of the public health officials say one thing," and it's like,
Right.
yeah, there's a reason why they all say one thing and not another,
Right.
and it's not because they all agree.
Right.
It's because the ones that don't agree are not allowed to speak.
Right.
I literally know nurses, several people in the health community, including nurses and doctors and administrators, who are not allowed to publicly challenge this
Yep.
stuff. If they did, they lose their job.
Yep. I
So,
know some of the same people.
you can't sit there and go, oh well, see, everybody agrees, and then say because I shut everyone else down. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, dude,
Yeah.
it's psychotic for
Right.
saying that crap.
Well, and not only this, so what we really, the big takeaway from this is that, we all just need to understand that government's our buddy.
They're here to help.
Look, we know what we need to do to beat this virus. Tell the truth. Follow the scientists and the science. Work together. Put trust and faith in our government to fulfill its most important function, which is protecting the American people. No function more important. We need to remember the government isn't some foreign force in a distant capital. No, it's us, all of us. We the people. For you and I, that America thrives when we give our hearts, when we turn our hands to common purpose. And right now, my friends, we're doing just that.
Yeah. So just realize that the government is here to baby you and to be your mommy and daddy.
The whole follow the science thing. Here's the thing about that to me.
Well, they're not even doing it.
Well, they're not doing it, but
Well-
it's just words.
Oh, absolutely.
So this is what it reminds me of. Did you ever see Idiocracy?
Oh, absolutely.
So for those of you who've never seen it, first of all, I recommend it. It's funny as hell.
Draws a lot of parallels to
And it
right
draws
now.
a lot of parallels to real life. And the gist of the story is that people just get dumber in the future. And you can kind of see how that happens now that we've got this president, right? But they didn't have plants because they didn't know how to. They've lost all knowledge of agriculture anymore, and they kept watering their plants with Gatorade.
Which ironically is what I'm drinking right now.
Right. Well, and they said that the reason why is because it's got electrolytes. Right.
Right.
When the guy from the past shows up and says, "What are you guys doing? Like, you should be using water," and they're like, "But it's got electrolytes. It's what plants crave." That's what I hear whenever somebody says, "It's science.
Right.
Just follow the science. It's science."
Yeah.
Or
Oh, yeah.
or that episode of Futurama
Right.
where Professor Farnsworth is like, "Hail science!" like he's praising Satan or something like that. It's just, dude, you're turning science into a magic word.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any meaning
Right.
anymore. Because you just say follow the science as if that's an argument. It's like,
Right.
no, okay, show me the studies, and I'll
Right.
show you the counter studies. And I
Right.
mean, none of us are scientists, but don't just say it's science and act like that's an argument.
Right. Well, I mean, if we would just listen to Biden, this all would be fixed.
My fellow Americans, you're owed nothing less than the truth. And for all of you asking when things will get back to normal, here is the truth. The only way to get our lives back, to get our economy back on track, is to beat the virus. You've been hearing me say that while I was running and the last 50 days I've been president. But this is one of the most complex operations we've ever undertaken as a nation in a long time.
Here's the thing. The only way to get back to normal is to beat the virus.
Right.
I don't know if we're going to cover this today on the show, but I did see an article recently where experts are saying, and whenever I see that, of course I cringe because what does that even mean?
Yeah.
But where experts are saying that COVID is never going to go away. It's going to be endemic.
Exactly.
So in order for us to get back to normal, we have to beat a virus that's never going to go away.
Oh, yeah.
That should raise alarms to anybody.
Yeah.
That should
Absolutely.
be a huge red flag to anybody listening to Biden right now.
Yep.
Because they've been doing this. It's just like they said the 15 days to flatten the curve.
Yep.
Right? We're on day 372
Right.
of 15 days to flatten the curve,
Yeah.
and they're still telling us to do all this stupid crap like wear masks.
Yep.
Which they never did before when there were diseases killing people.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it's like this is the equivalent of beating the flu.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
They just want control.
Right.
They just want to control
Right.
your life and control everything you do every day.
Absolutely.
That's why I'm using every power I have as
All
President
the
of the
power.
United States to put us on a war footing to get the
War
job
footing,
done.
bro.
Sounds like hyperbole, but I mean it, a war footing.
I'm so tired of hearing this COVID thing being compared to war.
It's like the war on terror. It's like,
goodness.
okay, it's never going to end.
Well,
so you're justifying
no,
all of
it's-
these expenses.
It's not like the war on terror, because the war on terror, like legitimate service and whatever had to happen.
yeah, but
and sacrifice.
it's the same propaganda.
This is
because
well,
terrorism is never going to go away.
Agreed.
COVID is never going to go
Agreed.
away. So it's the same propaganda tactic.
Yeah, but I mean, but that's my point. Is comparing it to something like that is just no. These are.
I just did. What are you going to do about it?
Right now? Right. I'm gonna strongly, vehemently disagree with you.
You do what you want. You're a free ass man.
I know, you're right. And then, if we would just listen to it, Biden, we're on track to have everything earlier than expected, supposedly.
It's truly a national effort,
Sure.
just like we saw during World War II.
Just like World War II.
Now, because of all the work we've done, we'll have enough vaccine supply for all adults in America by the end of May. That's months ahead of schedule.
Except that it's not.
Isn't it?
It's not. No, absolutely. If you look at the projections made back in January, May was the bar anyway from Trump.
Oh, really?
The Biden administration, and you will not hear this anywhere except a conservative media outlet, but the Biden administration has literally done nothing to speed up anything. The everything was already ramping up by January 20th when he took office. So the speed at which the virus, the doses were getting out, the speed at which they were being administered, all this other stuff. He's done nothing, and his administration has done nothing to.
Well, wait a minute.
help
He
speed
invented
this
the
up.
virus,
Right.
the vaccine.
Right. Well, exactly.
I seem to recall that he said it was his administration
Right.
that got it, because when he came in, there was no vaccine. I
Right.
seem to recall that.
Exactly.
Is that a lie?
I mean, just maybe, especially since he wasn't inaugurated till January 20th, and he got his
Color me
first
shocked.
dose in December.
Right.
So again, this is just pure gaslighting. But we just need to realize that if we're really, really, really good, Daddy Biden will let us go outside.
Right.
Because here's the point. If we do all this, if we do our part, if we do this together, by July the 4th, there's a good chance you, your families and friends will be able to get together in your backyard or in your neighborhood and have a cookout or a barbecue and celebrate Independence Day. That doesn't mean large events with lots of people together, but it does mean small groups will be able to get together.
Is the irony totally lost on him?
Yes, and all other Democrats.
I mean, yeah. Like,
Yes.
Do you remember? Do you remember what we're celebrating on July 4th?
Oh, he gets to that. Just wait.
That will make
geez.
this Independence Day something truly special.
Oh, I cut it off. So the next words in that is, we will not only remember our nation's independence, but we will declare independence from this virus. That's the next line. I'm not
The
even
government
I
gives you
paraphrased it,
permission,
but-
right?
Yeah.
Like if you do what Biden says, then he will allow you to celebrate your freedom.
Yeah.
If you do what the government tells you
Do
to
what
do,
the dictator says.
then the government will let you celebrate
Yeah.
your freedom.
Yeah.
Come on.
You cannot make this stuff up. So let's just debunk this right here and now, because I heard this and I was like, no. Your own administration doesn't even agree with this, because I had just read up on this the other week. So today is March 15th. Okay? Now, Joe Biden is talking about July 4th, which is still a couple months away. From the CDC website, on their article of when you've been fully vaccinated, how to protect yourself and others, okay? Under the section of what's changed, it says, if you've been fully vaccinated, you can gather indoors with fully vaccinated people without wearing a mask.
I saw that, yeah.
You can gather indoors with unvaccinated people from one other household. For example, visiting with relatives who all live together without masks, unless any of those people or anyone they live with has an increase for severe illness from COVID-19. If you've been around someone who has COVID-19, you do not need to stay away from others or get tested unless you have symptoms. So that's the science that we're not following from Biden's own administration. Because this thing was updated on March 9th. So Biden himself doesn't even know the science. Yeah. Nor is he following it.
If you heard Fauci recently, he even said
he's gone back too.
Yeah,
he said he wants a 0% risk rate or whatever.
Well, what he said, and I don't know if we've got this documented here, but I know what he said was something to the effect of, and you know what, I'll include this in our show notes afterwards. But what he said was that sometimes we just got to shoot from the hip.
Yeah.
Right? We just got to make a judgment call. So even if we don't have the data to back up the rules we're making,
right,
which is basically him just admitting that the rules are freaking arbitrary.
Well,
it's just based off of how I feel at the time, and I feel like maybe I'm gonna just keep restricting your economics, right?
Right. Well, and see, the problem with Fauci, I gave him the benefit of the doubt for the longest time because it was like, okay, this guy knows infectious disease. Okay, I got it. His credentials, I got it. The problem with it has become, over time, he has not only contradicted himself every other week since, they've started wheeling him out in front of the public, even during the Trump administration, but he's shown himself to be just a pure political hack.
Oh, yeah.
And since Biden's been elected.
He's admitted to lying.
Yes.
He's admitted to lying for our own good.
Yeah.
He doesn't. Of course, he doesn't put it in those words, but I exaggerated because I want people to behave a certain way.
Right,
dude.
Right.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's not how you. That's not transparency. Is what we need.
Right.
We need transparency, and you're
working against.
You're working against transparency.
Yeah,
you're telling the American people that you don't trust them to make their own decisions.
Well, because we're not smart enough without the government, Max.
Yeah, for crying out loud.
So if we're good, we can go outside. But he ends this.
But only in certain size groups.
Right. Yeah.
We're still going to be limited.
Small groups.
If we do what we're told,
we're
going to be able to have restricted freedoms.
Right.
Thanks, Daddy Government.
Right. So he then gets into the American Rescue Plan, which is the COVID relief bill, which is doing a lot of things except alleviating the government restriction from COVID. So he ends his speech kind of with this.
In the coming weeks and months, I'll be traveling along with the First Lady, the Vice President, the Second Gentleman, members of my cabinet, to speak directly to you, to tell you the truth about how the American Rescue Plan meets the moment. And if it fails at any pace, I will acknowledge that it failed, but it will not.
So there we go. When he doesn't acknowledge that it's failed, we will hold him to account. Just write that down. He wants us to.
Okay.
He said to do it. So and that he will acknowledge it. So when he doesn't, then guess what? We're going to be screaming and crying about what Biden did and what he said again. So that kind of gets us into our next story with the American Rescue Plan, which is the $2 trillion or $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill.
Did you get your motherfucking money yet?
No. We'll see about that.
I think I just barely made the cut.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't even. I'm not even really worried about it. I'm not banking on any of it. It's neither here nor there for me. Would it be nice? Sure. I don't really care either way because.
But I say take it.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying don't take it, but I'm saying it's not going to make.
I don't approve of it.
It's not going to make.
They're going to do it. Take it.
A market difference in my life anyway. Like it's okay. So I'm going to be able to spend other money that I had designated for something on something else now, and then all of that equates to bills.
I'll have a bigger arsenal
than
I did before.
Yeah, so to me personally, it's not making a huge difference. But the bill
I don't think it's making a big difference to much of anybody, though.
Well, no,
really.
because here's the thing.
It's $1,400 with however many months worth
Yes.
of unemployment that a lot of people have had to go through.
This is so insulting.
It is insulting.
It's truly insulting. I mean, if you don't understand where I'm coming from, business owner, like I ran a business full time before March of 2020, and I was doing all right and able to take care of myself. Well, all the shutdowns came, shut down my clients' businesses. Guess what I had to do? I struggled for the next 6 to 8 months, and then I went back to work. And so now I have the business, which I kind of closed the door. I mean, I was working from home, so I don't have to close the location. I have that to my benefit, but a lot of other people didn't. And a lot of other people have a lot more expense than $1,400 ever thought about covering. You know? And like I said, like the $1,400, okay, you're talking about paying my mortgage and my insurance and my cell phone bill for a month. Okay, cool. Where's the other 9 months that we've been screwing, or 10 months that we've been screwing around with this stuff that hasn't been covered? So in the Rose Garden, they had this get together with Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and the president and the vice president. This is the most disgusting display that I have seen in public in a long while, apart from this Joe Biden speech. But I'm not even going to quote, we're not even going to listen to Biden at all. Just listen to, these are the legislators and the vice president. Listen to Chuck Schumer.
Hope is on the horizon, and help is on the way.
Oh.
What do we say to America? We say to America, help is on the way. Help is on the way. You will receive your $1,400 checks in a few weeks. Help is on the way. People are being vaccinated more quickly and more effectively than we ever imagined. Help is on the way. Half the children in America will no longer be in poverty. And help is on the way. Our schools will open more quickly and more safely than anyone has ever thought. We Democrats
Let them eat cake, right?
promises. We made promises in Georgia. We made promises in the country. We said if we gained the Senate, kept the House, and elected the president, we would finally get things done and get us out of this COVID crisis. And we
Is he
are on the
channeling his
road
inner
to
JFK?
success. Help is on the way.
My fellow Americans, ask not what you can do for COVID, but what COVID can do for you.
Right? Can win elections for you.
Yeah.
When Chuck Schumer says, you know, help's on the way, grab your wallet, because he's about to take a lot of money from you. Like, this whole argument that these Democrats make is so fallacious. It's, oh, well, it's widely supported on both sides of the aisle. Well, yeah, no, duh, because we've been struggling for how long?
Right.
Anybody's going to want free money. You know,
Especially after you kick them out of their jobs.
well, exactly. And walk up to anybody on the street and say, hey, you want $100?
Yeah.
And no strings attached. What are they going to say? Of
Right.
course, yes. So this is kind of a stupid argument.
Well, not only that, but also to act like it was because you won the election that you were able to get this passed. I seem to recall a $2,000 check during Trump's administration. That was not during. That was not when you had control of the Senate.
Well, it was 600, wasn't it? I think it was
No,
600.
actually, it was 2,000. It was 2,000 and then a $600 check. So really, total of $2,600. Yeah, it was last year. Remember, the first stimulus check was like $2,000.
Yeah. No, I remember that. I don't remember being that much money. I thought it was only $600.
No, the one in December was $600. The one before that, back in like May or something of last year, with $2,000.
Oh, I don't remember.
You don't remember getting $2,000?
No, because I didn't get it.
Oh, well, that sucks. All right, well maybe that's why you don't remember. Yeah, but that's my point. Is that without the, I mean, don't act like it's
Yeah, I
suddenly
get
you're
what you're
suddenly
saying.
getting shit done because you
Right.
got elected. That
Right.
shit was getting done before you got
Well,
elected.
yeah. And Pelosi held up the bill in the House for months,
Right.
During the summer.
We would have had 2,000
Yep.
before all this if
Yep.
it wasn't for
Yep.
you know
she
you
didn't
guys.
Want. She didn't want to give Trump a political victory.
Right.
And
Right.
so yeah. So speaking of Pelosi, so the big
we
takeaway
have
from
to speak
Schumer
of
is
Pelosi?
that the Democrats have cured poverty. So
Yeah.
if you're ever poor again in your life,
You know who to blame.
you know who to blame. But speaking of Pelosi, she gets up there and, in typical Nancy style,
But let me say this about my members. Our chairs were dazzling in their own work, intellect, integrity, imagination for the American people, working with their Senate colleagues. I say their beautiful diversity of our members. And I say to them, our diversity is our strength. Our unity is our power. And in this bill, our diversity to protect everyone in our country, to end the disparity in access to everything that the bill presents.
How are people not insulted by that at this point?
Because it's all about that, man.
I mean, because even when Trump's talked like that, and he's talked like that before, where he talks in platitudes, I'm like, dude, stop.
Right.
That's the thing I hate the most.
Well, it's
and
the lowest
he doesn't
common
do
denominator.
it. Is the lowest common denominator.
It
right.
really is.
Like, how insulting.
Yeah.
To talk to me like that.
Yeah, but did
like,
you
diversity
hear...
is our strength, and
Yeah.
we're all in this together. It's like, dude, shut up. I want substance.
Right.
Give me some information.
Well, there is no substance.
There is no substance.
To their side, and listen to how she talks. Like
They sugarcoat this crap.
glowing. Our chairs were brilliant, and all this. And everything
Working
you heard about a chair
together,
who was a
yeah.
Republican was that they were a racist, a xenophobe, and whatever else you want to term it as. So yeah, in typical Nancy form. I mean, there was no surprises there.
That's
And-
I would encourage local politicians, please don't talk like that.
Yeah.
Please don't talk. It's such a turnoff.
Well, yeah.
It is such a turnoff
Yeah.
when you speak in platitudes.
But remember,
Substance is where it's at.
But remember, the Democrats are highly educated, by far more than Republicans, according to the numbers. So
You know what? Being educated doesn't mean much
agreed.
anymore.
But my point is, this is supposedly the crowd they're talking to, but
Yeah.
yet using this kind of language
Right.
and these kind of just garbage arguments.
If that
And then
actually
they
gets you
criticize the
emotional and
people
gets your rocks off, then
Yeah.
you just are simple-minded.
Oh, yeah.
I hate to just be insulted.
No,
I don't.
But it's true.
Come on, man.
I mean, yeah, exactly. There's nothing wrong with making a judgment based on the evidence presented before you. Like, that's the crazy part. Like, I have no problem insulting these people because this is insulting to me as somebody who is intelligent.
Quit talking to me like that.
Right.
I don't care what side you're on. Like I said, I've heard Trump talk like that before, and I don't like it.
Right. Oh yeah, yeah. Exactly. To be fair, I roast Republicans just as much too.
Well, not so far, but we will later on.
Right.
I promise you that.
Well, the problem is it's so overshadowed by all the Democrats.
yeah.
They
But
kind
we
of
do
took
need
that
to get
limelight.
we do need to get the Republicans in gear, but we're working.
Yeah. Well, right. I'll give them this at least. At least they're not out there saying stupid crap. Like, for the most part.
Wrong.
For the most part.
Wrong.
For the most part. You have one instance, and we're going to talk about it, I know. But, yes, for the most part, they're not out there. They're not talking like this.
Remember, you're in Ohio, bro.
Oh, right. No, I know.
Okay.
I know. It's unfortunate. So then the vice president gets up there.
The president promised help is on the way. And today, help has arrived. Help has arrived for the workers who lost their jobs. Help has arrived for the students who've been stuck at home. Help has arrived for the families that have struggled to put food on their table, and for the small businesses that have struggled to keep their doors open. Help has arrived.
Thanks, Vice President Harris. Thanks for keeping my business afloat and all of that.
I mean, seriously, the gall.
Yeah. No, right. That's why I say you have to suspend reality in order to believe this garbage. And so here's what actually is in this bill. As we said before, it was $1.9 or $2 trillion. It extends the existing $300 a week through unemployment through September 6th and provides a tax break on $10,000 in the unemployment benefits. It has the $1,400 checks, obviously, on top of the $600 issued through the stimulus bill passed in December. Roughly $400 billion of the package would go to another round of checks. There's going to be supposedly narrow eligibility for these checks. We'll see. But it's only for individuals earning $75,000 per year, and couples earning $150,000 will still receive the full $1,400 per person benefit. However, the benefit would disappear for individuals earning more than $80,000 annually and couples earning more than $160,000. Now, if you are earning $150,000 and cannot live without a $1,400 check, something is wrong with your life. Like, I will be insulting in that regard because I have lived on far less with a family of 6 and still made it just fine. So, so if you're making $150 as a couple and just so excited about this $1,400 check. You might want to check out what's going on wrong in your life. Just my little 2 cents. Under the legislation too, most Americans will receive a $3,000 a year child tax credit for children ages 6 to 17, and $3,600 for each child under 6. And then a bunch went to state and local governments. Basically, if you look up the specifics of this is really for the blue states who blew out their spending and they want the government to help them. That's where a lot of this money goes.
Oh, of course it does.
And a lot of this money went to West Virginia because we talked about Joe Manchin being one of the hinge votes in the Senate. His state, West Virginia, is getting a ton of money. And he even went on, I believe it was Fox News, talking to Brett Baer. And he was like, well, his point was, well, I got stuff that I wanted, so I voted for it. And it was just like, come on, man. Like, yeah, it's gross, but this is politics.
Yep.
Tens of billions of dollars will fund coronavirus testing and contact tracing, which we know doesn't work. So good thing we're throwing money at that. Increase the size of public health workforce and funding vaccine distribution supply chains. I have no problem with that. But I'm sure it doesn't take billions of dollars to do that. Bill sets aside more than $20 billion in emergency rental assistance and other relief for homeless. And then almost $130 billion to help K through 12 schools reopen. $130 billion. Now, this is on top of the money that was already given.
They already get.
Yeah, they already gave them last year.
While not actually in the building.
Not opening anything or whatever.
Having nothing to actually maintain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Colleges and other higher education institutions will receive almost $40 billion.
Ridiculous.
So there's, pension plan stuff in there. I encourage you to go to our show notes, read the WAPO article on it. It breaks it down. Did
you archive that WAPO article?
What's that?
Did you archive that WAPO article?
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, don't give WAPO any clicks. Just go to the archive. That's one thing I'm going to encourage everybody. Archive everything. All right, seriously. Whenever I go and look at any of this stuff, I'm archiving everything I can. Obviously, you can't archive like videos and stuff like that, but you can archive text, HTML text, right? So there's archive.is is what I use. Some people use the Wayback Machine. I don't necessarily trust them, but archive everything. If nothing else, it preserves what they actually wrote at the time because they'll tend to sneak in a change here and there. Yep. But it will also keep Washington Post, New York Times, and all these other frauds from getting the clicks that they make money off of. So
yeah, this is the biggest pork bill that's ever been passed in history. So
Biden didn't even touch on any of the crap that went overseas, but whatever.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, right. Which was the majority of it, as always. But Biden breaking records and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. He broke the record for a number of children in cages, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a big, huge thing we might talk about next week. Yeah. Assuming that nothing else just insane happens. But did you hear, too, that the Kentucky Senate's trying to limit free speech?
Oh, yeah, nice transition, by the way. Nice try.
Right, I know.
Yeah, I saw that. That's ridiculous.
It was apart from the Texas story that we're going to get into a little bit later, if this does not just make your skin crawl, I don't know what will. So this is a response, and the intentions, I will give them the benefit of the doubt. The intentions are good, but the execution is absolutely just atrocious, and this cannot pass into law. If this passes into law, this is going to be one of the worst bills to ever go on the books. So it could be a crime, according to the AP, to taunt a police officer in Kentucky under a bill that passed the state Senate on Thursday. So it's in response to the killing of Breonna Taylor and the protests that happened in Louisville last year. So again, the intentions here are good. The intent is to try to limit a lot of the garbage that happened last year in Louisville, if you followed that at all. So, okay, I can give them that much. But here, under the legislation, anyone who, quote, accosts, insults, taunts, or challenges a law enforcement officer with offensive or derisive words, or by gestures or other physical contact that would have a direct tendency to provoke a violent response. That end quote. That is the word directly from this bill.
Wait. So would provoke the cop to being violent?
Would anything that would
How about the
provoke,
cop just doesn't be violent when he doesn't need to be?
Well, true. The onus is not on the officer here. The onus is you're not allowed to provoke them.
So the onus is on you
Yes.
to keep the cop from being violent.
Well, from provoking them too. Yeah, basically.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So you would be guilty of a misdemeanor and face up to 90 days in jail and fines.
Here's the thing,
This is insane.
I remember back, I think it was in Portland when they were you had Antifa mobs at the immigration facilities, and I do remember them hollering out just the worst crap at some of these law enforcement officers, including calling a black law enforcement officer a race traitor. I'm pretty sure I heard them call him the N-word too here and there. But so like, on the one hand, I would love to see somebody like that get his ass handed to him. You know what I mean? But again, this is our speech too that you got to protect.
Well,
You have to protect the worst of, and again, we'll get into that later on. But you have to protect the worst forms of free speech.
Oh yeah. Well, and the thing of it is here too, like the wording of this is so vague.
So vague. So
what
broad.
what is going to be considered accosting or insulting or taunting?
What
or
if all I said was "Yo, mama"?
Right.
Hey, yo, mama.
Exactly. And that's
that's taunting.
You're just opening up the door.
And he probably loves his mother very much.
Well, sure.
Right.
But you're opening up the door for abuse of this, and this is why. I mean, the Kentucky
all you're doing
legislature
is fanning the flames. You're actually going to make things worse.
Yeah.
Like the violence that you think you're trying to protect by by drawing a line closer to the more peaceful, quote unquote, versions of taunting, right? I mean, all you're going to do is All you're going to do is fan the flames, because now they're just going to be pissed off that they can't use their free speech. You're not going to make things better,
and I think
you're taking everybody else's right away too.
This actually, I'm not a law expert, but I'm pretty sure that this is 90 days in jail is much longer than you would get on like a minor drug charge. So you're going to get that for speaking a certain way to an officer. Yep. Which is more of a threat if you want to look at it that way.
What if an officer pulls you over and he's being a total asshole?
Right.
Like, and your emotions get carried away and you say you're a dick.
I was going to say, what if you're having a bad day and you just say something off color to them? Yeah. Now you're going to face 90 days in jail for that?
That's ridiculous.
That's insane. So even us as Republicans need to stand against other Republicans trying to do stupid things in the legislature.
If you're a constitutional Republican.
Yeah. I mean, this is...
You're supposed to be able to speak truth to power, and we give cops power.
Right.
To be able to protect our communities.
Right.
But that power should not include infringing on our rights, even against those who have the worst things to say.
Sure.
Because those are the canary in the coal mine, right? That's how you know your speech is protected, is when the things that you hate, the speech that you hate the most, is protected.
Right.
All right, well, let's get into some local stuff. I'm going to start off by giving a shout out to a good friend of mine who I've gotten to know very well over the past couple of months, Lexi Lawson.
Yeah.
Yep, she is running for Anderson Township trustee. Like I said, I've gotten to know her the past couple of months. She's made her announcement officially on Facebook here on March 9th. And again, that election is going to be this November.
Go vote.
So make sure you guys go vote, especially in Anderson Township. Lexi is fantastic. Like I said, I've had great conversations with her. She's got a great head on her shoulders, a very hard worker. She's a family woman. I mean, just listening to her, doing her rate. I mean, she's a working mom too, right? So she works. She's running for trustee, and she's got kids.
Yeah.
And watching her balance that stuff is just incredible.
Yeah.
So. Big shout out to Lexi Lawson for running for Anderson Township trustee. Keep an eye on her. I think she's going to be great. Speaking of Cincinnati elections, they have, it seems, I think we talked about this a little bit last week, finalized the 6 candidates for Cincinnati mayor.
Oh.
Among those that were rejected are Kelly Prather. So I don't know if you've been following this too much. I've seen some of her Facebook posts and some of her comments. And as I understand it, she just has not been meeting the standards for getting on the ballot.
Yeah.
And she's raising hell about it. So you're supposed to raise or gather 500 valid signatures in order to be a mayoral primary candidate.
Right.
And she supposedly did not have either the numbers or the documentation to prove. I think she had photocopies and stuff like that, and I think that was part of the problem.
Right.
So they have to be able to validate this stuff.
Sure.
And as I understand it, they were not able to validate it. Now, I haven't seen anything that proves that for sure. I'd love to see more information on it.
Right.
But the thing that makes me suspicious that she probably did not submit the valid paperwork and the valid signatures she needed is her reaction. And her reaction is, of course, well, I'm a black woman, therefore they don't want me in the race.
Of course.
Well, okay. I mean, as soon as you lay down that accusation, I'm already suspicious. Suspicious.
Yeah.
Because people do that kind of crap all the time. They'll claim victimhood in order to get away with some bullshit. So
right.
I'm not, maybe there is she has a legitimate grievance, but she should have focused on the legitimate grievance and said, here's what they are claiming and here's what's the truth.
Right.
And if she'd have left the race card out of it, I might have been interested in hearing more about it, but I don't. Well, and it's downtown Cincinnati, so there's plenty of people who are just going to go, oh, black woman being oppressed. Right. Of course, we're going to back her up.
Of course.
Okay. Forgive me if I'm not convinced. Maybe I'm not the person you need to convince, but I mean, all I can do is roll my eyes at these people.
Right.
And I don't mean those people. I just mean whatever. Screw it.
You said what you said.
Whatever.
So to be a valid signature, it had to be from a registered City of Cincinnati voter and be accompanied by an address that matches that which the Board of Elections had on file for that name. So this goes back to election integrity and the fact that nobody's saying you can't move or anything else, but when you move and you're a registered voter, that means you change your information because this is exactly why. What if this was your candidate and you were supporting them? We look at and kind of laugh at that this is a Democrat or whatever, but what if this was a Republican? What if this was somebody who we desperately needed in office right now and they couldn't get certified to be in this election?
It doesn't matter how much you like them or even how good they would be.
Right.
You have to make sure that your elections are protected.
Yep.
And right now, there's not a lot of reason to feel like our elections have a whole lot of integrity. Right. So, the last thing we need are people who find their way around or find some kind of a loophole to get on the bill.
Right.
Especially playing the race card.
Yeah, that's the most disgusting part of it.
So, it really is. Moving on, the Cincinnati Public Schools, so they're actually facing a lawsuit. I don't know if you saw this.
No.
They finally did vote to reopen public schools.
Okay, I did hear that.
I think it was a 5-4 decision, 4-3 decision.
Yeah, it was tight.
So they are finally going to be opening up officially after I think some pressure from Mike DeWine. DeWine was saying, "Hey, we had an agreement. You get these vaccines, priority vaccinations, and you were going to open up."
Right.
And now they're finally going to open up. So, but during the discussions, it seems and this again, speaking of integrity. It seems that there were school board officials during their public meeting who were texting back and forth about the meeting, about this discussion in private, which is, as I understand it, against the rules. And
that's an interesting rule.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of guys who are taking him to task. A conservative activist named Mark Miller. I'm not particularly familiar with him, but he's brought in Kurt Hartman. It seems like they do a couple of things together because I've seen this a couple of times. Yeah. So Kurt Hartman is bringing this lawsuit in to force these guys to quit doing this stuff.
Right.
And again, you have to make sure that there's transparency. If you're texting back and forth, that absolutely should make anybody suspicious.
Oh, sure.
Especially when it's supposed to be an open forum, public meeting that everybody should have access to the information being discussed there.
Right.
And when you're not doing that, of course I'm going to have questions.
Oh, sure.
Of course I'm going to wonder if you have any integrity. Maybe you didn't realize the rules, and maybe and I don't know for sure if that's the case.
They're all read into them. Huh? I'm sure they're all read into the rules.
Okay, but how many rules are there, Mike? Right? I mean, maybe you forgot I don't know. But I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. But assuming I give you the benefit of the doubt, you still have to be reminded of those rules. And if this is what we got to do to make sure of it, it's about making sure that we don't have a lack of integrity during these processes going forward, right? So we'll see what that turns out. I don't know if we'll follow up on this story or not. I think it's pretty straightforward. I think it's cut and dry. I mean, you don't do this.
Right.
You don't text back and forth during a public meeting that everybody's supposed to have access to.
Right.
So
makes sense. But that means it doesn't make sense, actually.
Right.
In today's society.
Right. So anyway, moving on. We're actually talking about the Brent Spence Bridge twice in a row.
Oh, it sucks as much as we think it does.
Yeah. The mayor of Covington actually had some choice words for basically the proposed changes to the bridge that they want to make. So a guy named Joe Meyer, not sure how you pronounce it. I'm not familiar with the guy, but he laid out an entire argument for some of the issues that this current proposal would face. Biggest thing being size and congestion. He's claiming first off that it's not going to solve the congestion problem.
He's probably right with that,
and he might be right. I don't know. I'm not particularly familiar with it. But the interesting thing is too. He's definitely complaining about the size because the bridge would grow. Now, I don't know if you've ever been there. I'm sure you have. Yeah. Right there in Covington where that bridge is.
Yep.
It's an eyesore.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Like if I was living in Covington, I would already be unhappy with that arrangement.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
But imagine growing that. So I can probably to that degree in terms of the size and taking away quality real estate that could be used for businesses. I can understand.
Yeah, that's the thing. The businesses there are really gonna make that.
And the businesses there got hurt significantly during the wreck.
Yeah,
and that was he also brought this up during his letter. Again, all this will be in the Chronicles. We have just a side note there. We do use Chronicles to capture all of this, so we will have the link to all of these articles in there. You'll be able to follow up on this. So I do encourage that you read this. Also, as I understand it, they're looking at a toll option for being able to fund this, which.
That's
it's kind of frustrating paying taxes and paying tolls. It's kind of like I want to do one or the other unless you're a private road. If you're a government tolling a road, it's like screw you, dude.
Right.
But and they're also probably going to have to increase taxes too, right? I mean,
but it's a terrible idea.
But the issue that Meyer brings up is that Kentuckians would actually end up having to pay more.
Yeah.
Than Ohioans.
Yeah. Because Ohioans are already paying a higher tax rate anyway.
Well, yeah, and I would suspect part of that too is because there's a lot of Kentuckians going into Cincinnati for their work as well.
I know that for a fact.
So compared to Cincinnatians going across the river, so there's a lot of reason to think that. Yep. And again, I suppose I'm an Ohioan, but I suppose I can understand that argument.
Yep.
So again, I would strongly recommend reading this article or this open letter that he wrote because I think we need to pay close attention to what they're going to end up doing because if they are just suggesting something that is simply not going to work, we do want Covington to prosper.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're not our rivals. We work together. Right. So we do want Covington to prosper as well.
Right.
Otherwise, we can feel the pain on that.
Well, and not only that, it's gonna make our travels to Florida a lot longer than it already is. Because, guys, if you don't realize, 7175 is not only the main thoroughfare north-south, running through Ohio and Kentucky down to Florida. But for logistics chains too, this is a big deal. Like having this bridge shut down is a bigger deal than just, causing traffic and whatever else. Like it's easy for us because most of us only have to just drive across the bridge. We don't really have a purpose other than to go out and enjoy a restaurant or bar or whatever. But this logistically too is a huge deal for shippers.
Yep.
So this is something to be that is important, but it is a headache in the meantime.
So did you hear we got some praise here in Cincinnati from the World Wildlife Fund?
I hadn't until you brought this to my attention.
Yeah. I saw this today, actually.
I'm not up on my green news. Let's just be really transparent with that.
So Cincinnati actually launched it's called the Green Cincinnati Plan. It was launched in May of 2018, or adopted in 2018. And it was right after Trump had withdrawn the U.S. from the Paris Accords.
Oh.
Right. Which Cranley criticized.
Right.
He had a problem with that. Which, I don't want to get into all that, but, anything that's going to make us less competitive on the world stage in terms of our economy, in terms of our GDP, I'm going to have a problem with that too. And, So Cincinnati is one of the cities that decided that they were going to focus on becoming solely reliable on renewable energy by 2035.
How'd that work out for Texas?
That's neither here nor there, Scott. So, and I've read through a little bit of this Cincinnati Green Plan, and of course there's tax increases.
Of course.
There's tree planting. I'm okay with tree planting.
Well, see, here's the thing. So the argument that I have with a lot of these these green people, because they're not truly conservationists in my book, because all they want is money.
Yep.
So I have no problem with you doing. I'm an outdoors person. Like, I grew up fishing and all this. All my friends fish and hunt and everything else. So of course I have zero problem with wanting to make Cincinnati a more pretty place to live.
I'm alright with more trees.
Right, of course. I don't know of a single person who would say no to any of that.
You know how you get more trees?
You plant more trees.
CO2.
Well, yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, right.
So maybe we need to release a little more CO2.
I mean, I'll just breathe a little harder. I'll become a mouth breather. That'll solve a lot of issues.
Eat some more beans.
But I don't know of a single person who would say no to any of this stuff. The rub comes when they're like, oh yeah, but we want $80 million to install our solar panel. And it's like, come on, man.
Well, here's part of the issue here is their claim is at some point, because of the increase in temperature, which they say will rise 7 degrees by the end of this century, which, if you say so, I mean,
right.
I've heard all kinds of predictions in the past that never end up coming true.
I was going to say, not a single one of them was correct.
I'm kind of tired of my tax dollars going to fund projects because of these
models and
predictions that never end up coming true.
Yep.
And the thing is maybe it would come true, but are we actually directing our resources appropriately, right?
For sure.
So, and they're saying that the Ohio River could end up raising significantly as a result of climate change.
Yeah.
Not global warming anymore. Remember, we've changed the propaganda around.
Right.
So the one of the things that really bothers me about this is just the hubris.
Yep.
Like, that we can have, that you think that you can have this kind of an impact on the climate.
Right.
Like, even, like, let's just say that everybody did do this. Every city in the world engaged in this behavior.
Yeah.
Or, I'm sorry, every city in the country engaged in this behavior.
Right.
Right? China's still not going to follow these rules.
Oh, no.
China doesn't care. So if we were to assume that the arguments being made about climate change are true, and that we are facing some kind of catastrophic issue.
Right.
You know, the fact that you think that your one little city is going to have any impact.
Oh, right.
You know, and that you know enough about the science to even be able to make that claim.
Right.
That's the thing that bothers me. And then you're taking my tax dollars to put my money where your mouth is.
Right.
Drives me crazy.
Right.
And that's the problem I have with the whole thing. Is mainly the hubris. The fact that you actually think that you're going to have the kind of impact with my money that you say you're going to have, when you know they're not. And they're not going to get to 2035 renewable energy.
No.
That's not going to happen.
No.
I mean, it's not reliable. Fossil fuels have proven to be reliable.
Absolutely.
Renewable energy has not yet proven to be reliable to the extent that fossil fuels are.
Right. Like you say, China, India is another huge polluter.
Yeah.
You know, I think the United States ranks somewhere in the teens, and that's just by virtue of how big we are, more than anything, because our emissions have even fallen in recent years.
Yeah.
Have gone way down, you know, and so we can do whatever we want, but as far as a global impact, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah. And you're just hurting your own people.
Oh, sure.
You're forcing your own people to sacrifice for something that may not even happen, that may not even work.
Well, yeah.
Assuming there's actually the problem that you say exists.
But that's the argument, is we got to protect the world for our children, Max.
But you're not actually doing it.
I know, but it's our children, okay? Just understand it's the children. If I just say it louder, then maybe you'll understand.
Right.
That's how this whole thing goes.
Just scream it. Just scream it.
Right.
All right, so that about wraps up the local topics I wanted to talk about. I'm going to move into what I'm going to call a news segment, which is the Bonehead of the Week. The Bonehead of the Week is, and unfortunately, the maiden voyage of this segment is actually none other than Governor Greg Abbott, Republican governor of Texas. I saw this, and it just blew me away. So, roll tape.
Yep. Anti-Semitic platforms like Gab have no place in Texas and certainly do not represent Texas values.
That's all we need to know.
Yeah.
Now, So first off, it was only like a week or so ago that he was backing a bill in Texas to prevent these big tech companies from banning people based off of their political views.
Right.
All right. Now, Gab has been doing that on their own for years.
Right.
Right. And of course, that means you're going to have speech that's unfavorable on the platform. That's how it works. Like I've said before, you know free speech is working when the worst type of speech is not censored.
Right.
Right. And I'm not talking about illegal speech that are like incitements of violence or child pornography or any of that stuff. I'm talking about the supposed anti-Semitic content that you see on Gab, which may or may not even be on there. I don't know that I've really seen any.
I haven't.
But I'm sure it's there.
Sure.
But for all we know, it's some leftist on there just trying to make Gab look bad, right?
Well,
but it just blows me away. Sorry, let me finish this.
Yeah.
What blows me away is that just a week ago, he's touting this law, and then this week, he's going to claim that the platform itself is anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Based on what? Do you have evidence?
Right.
Like what? And it just, I'm so disappointed because I mean I've liked almost anything else I've seen this guy do. But I bring this up too because when we get into the cancel culture topic, this really kind of kicks that discussion off, and it really recalls back to what I talked about last week in terms of I'm not as concerned about being canceled by the left as I am about being canceled by my own community, about the people that I supposedly share values with. And this guy right here is painting Gab, painting the platforms that actually give conservatives a voice as anti-Semitic and cancelable.
Right.
Yeah, bonehead of the week. You should be ashamed, Governor Abbott. You really should.
Yeah, again, this is Republicans doing stupid things and saying stupid things. But and my question to Greg Abbott would be, okay, so if that's your standard, then do you allow Twitter to be accessible in Texas? Because Twitter is the cesspool of society if you've never been there. I don't recommend it, but also
there's all kinds of anti-white crap on there.
There's all kinds of anti-Semitic stuff on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Louis Farrakhan still has a Twitter profile.
Does he? I think he got banned.
If he did, it was
you
just
might want to
recent.
double check that unless he got reinstated because
if
I know he got banned at one point or another.
If he did, like I say, it was just.
But they
recent.
still, they let him on there for a long time. So
let's see.
The here's the thing. All right, Gab is again.
Still active.
It's a free. Is he still active?
Still active.
Well, then they reinstated him because I know they banned him at some point. But that's okay. So fair enough, right? This was the guy that compared Jews to ants that needed right.
I mean, time and time again over the years. There's so much.
Mind you, do you know where Governor Abbott posted this? Do you know where we got this from? You're looking at it, so you know. From Twitter.
From Twitter, yeah.
From Twitter. Yeah, the very same platform that allows the likes of Louis Farrakhan, anti-Semites like him, to have a platform.
Exactly.
Now, and here's the other thing I'm going to bring up. Because first off, he used this as a jumping off point to promote some legislation that I don't really know a whole lot about it, but it's him encourage or fighting anti-Semitism in tech. Now, if you're really concerned about anti-Semitism, do you really want to criticize anybody that criticizes Jews? Now, here's what I mean by that. People who are anti-Semitic or who talk about Jewish conspiracy theories. Now, I don't know enough about them, but I do know this. They think Jews are behind everything.
Oh, yeah.
So when a governor who otherwise has been on the right side of things suddenly comes out and says, oh, we're gonna shut down anti-Semitism everywhere we see it, right? And fraudulently accuses a platform of being anti-Semitic. Of all of these conspiracy theorists, their bells are ringing in their head. I guarantee it.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And that's the last thing you need because all that does is make Jews less safe.
Oh, sure.
Because all you're doing is creating more fervor against Jews.
Right.
Because they go, well, see, the Jews got Abbott now, so it's just another reason to be mad at the Jews.
Right.
So you're not helping the situation, Abbott.
Right.
You're pandering for no good reason.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, again, here's how I look at it. The intent is good, of course. Who would be against, fighting anti-Semitism? Okay, fine. But my question is, do we really need to do it from a legislative perspective?
No.
Because I mean, here's the thing: when you start cracking down on this stuff, it again becomes the slippery slope argument of, okay, well, where does it end? Because now we got to protect the Jews, then we got to protect, everybody else.
Well, you're creating special classes of people.
Exactly, and that's my point. Is now you got to protect, each individual group by a bill, because if you don't, then you're going to be a racist and all this other kind of stuff. As opposed to, okay, we have free speech in this country. The platform can govern itself however it wants to. If it wants to allow that kind of speech on it, that's their prerogative.
Yep.
But at the same time, the market can react to that. And that's how it should be handled.
Right.
If society if that is not acceptable in society, then don't use the platform.
Right.
But at the same time, don't go around just throwing these accusations around when you, on a I look at it from a business perspective. If somebody said that about my business, I'm going to be pissed.
That's what I mean. Well, and
give me a break, man. And this guy is a governor.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, he has more of an audience than as a business that I could ever have.
Right.
And so with that one statement taken out of context, broadcast over however many media sources and whatever else, you might not ever be able to recover from something like that.
Yep.
And so there's this one guy that just put this business underwater.
Well,
for no reason.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah. I mean, it was a completely irresponsible accusation that he made.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. You're the governor of Texas. You could have called up Gab and said, hey, look, this is what's being said about you. I want to understand this accusation. Because he clearly got this from somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't just make this up,
Probably
right?
Twitter.
Somebody told him to say this. Right.
Yeah.
So they said, "Hey, Gab is anti-Semitic," and instead of calling up Gab, who would have absolutely, I bet you anything, would have taken the call.
Oh, for sure.
Instead of calling the CEO and saying, "Hey, this is the accusation I'm hearing, and I want to understand this.
Yeah.
Can you explain it?" Before you go out and accusing them, that is just low.
Yeah.
That is low,
Right.
low. So yeah, Abbott, you should be ashamed of yourself
Yeah.
for this one.
Yeah, this
and
one's dumb.
I hope that his phone is ringing off the hook with pissed off conservatives, because
It should
he
be.
deserves that.
Yeah, it definitely
deserves
should
it.
be.
Now, I'm not
anybody,
saying
really.
that he should be canceled for this.
No.
Let's be clear.
No.
I might, if I was a Texan, I might still vote for the guy, but he's going to hear some words from me.
Oh, for sure.
And I would demand an apology for all
Yeah.
of the people in Texas who are Gab users, dedicated Gab users who
yeah.
voted for him.
Yeah.
I would be demanding an
You're
apology.
just broad brushing these people as anti-Semites. Come
Yep.
on. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So getting into cancel culture then, because like I said, I do not encourage the canceling of Governor Greg Abbott. What I do encourage, though, is fighting cancel culture. And we talked a good deal last week about how to identify cancel culture in the past couple of weeks, really. And this is going to be part 3 of that discussion. We're probably going to wrap the introduction to our cancel culture discussions up this week, and then we'll come back to it at another time, because there are plenty of other philosophical discussions that we're going to want to have here. But cancel culture, of course, is going to be one of the big ones that we will talk about. So I'll just give a couple of my thoughts just to see what you think there, Scott, about what it takes to actually fight cancel culture. And I think it's about, first, you got to identify what your culture is, right? And what belongs in your culture and what doesn't.
Sure.
And if it doesn't belong in your culture, then ostracism is the appropriate tool. And is that cancel? No. It's just saying, you don't belong at my dinner table. I'm not going to allow that anymore, right? So, for example, Netflix is no longer on one of my bills.
Right.
And that was mainly because of that Cuties movie that came out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sorry, my money's not going to go to pedophiles.
Right.
You can, frankly, I think they belong in jail for that.
You're right.
But actually, so that's a bad example, because that's technically me. Not just saying I don't want you at my table. It means I want you in jail, but I do think you belong in jail for pedophilia. So,
since that's not an option for
Disney
you
Plus being a
personally.
better example, I did cancel my Disney Plus after the Mandalorian issue with Gina Carano, because it's like, okay, you know what? You're just... Now, is that me... I mean, of course, I canceled the subscription by definition, right? But it's not the same thing as canceling. It's ostracism. No. I'm just not going to give you my money.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that I don't want any of you to ever be able to eat again, or that I want to take away anybody else's ability to enjoy your content.
Right.
So, for example, one of my favorite shows to watch is Community.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
They had an episode, a Dungeons and Dragons episode. You know that one?
Yeah, I know exactly.
And during that one, Ken Jeong's character played a dark elf.
Yep.
And in order to play a dark elf, he painted himself in all black, right? Which, of course, was a joke about blackface. And it was hilarious. Now, here's the thing. There's all kinds of episodes that make jokes about race, but that one was the one that crossed the line. So Hulu and Netflix or whoever else, they removed that one episode. You can't watch that on any of the streaming services anymore, right? Which, it frustrates me that I don't hear any of these actors speaking out about it because it's their art.
Not. Well, but he's a person of color, too, so...
Yeah, but even he's not immune to that crap. But my point is that episode was canceled in the cancel culture definition of the word.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Because it wasn't just about, okay, Hulu, I'm not giving you my money anymore because I don't like that episode of that one show that you have on there. Right. It's, okay, Hulu, you're going to get rid of that show so nobody else can enjoy it either. That's canceling. That is not just keeping you out of my house. That's keeping you out of everybody else's house. And that's the thing I want to point out. That's the big difference, because a lot of the left now, when they try to call out hypocrisy about conservatives who have a problem with cancel culture. Whenever anybody canceled Disney, they claim, well, see, conservatives cancel people too. No, that's different.
Right.
We didn't say you didn't get to eat. We didn't say that you didn't get to have a table anywhere. We just said you didn't get to have a seat at our table. And that was it. That's the difference. The left, when they engage in cancel culture, it's all about taking everything away from everybody else, not just refusing to engage in it yourself.
Right. And Dr. Seuss was another example
Dr. Seuss is another example of that, right? So that's, again, they say, well, Dr. Seuss is a private business and they can do what they want. Yeah, that doesn't make it right.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
you can still criticize that, and they still canceled those because it was about taking away that content for everybody else.
Well, yeah. So, an interesting meme that was going around was, show me the people who were on the right side who started book burnings in history. Doesn't exist.
And that's exactly what you are.
And actually,
if you're a censor and you promote censorship, you're a book burner.
Yeah, absolutely.
And frankly, you're the Nazi.
And so, and I forgot about that. I wanted to follow up with that. Speaking just real quick on Dr. Seuss. So you said last week or the week before that we should go buy up those books. So I was like, you know what? That's a really good idea. I'm going to go do it. So I got on Amazon. Do you know how much these books are? No, I'm not even joking you. $1,500 for one. And it was like, are you kidding me? Just because they're out of print now. And it's like, come on. Like,
business opportunity. We need to start finding all of the offensive shit out there and buying it up.
I know, right? Seriously. Because, I mean, I love capitalism, but it's like...
buy up all the most offensive shit you can find.
It's like, holy crap, man. Like, I'm sorry, I like Dr. Seuss, but I'm not going to spend $1,500 on a book. Anyway.
So, but you would have spent, $10 on it and sold it $1,500. Right? So that's the thing. It's too late for the Dr. Seuss books, but you guys need to start doing some research on all the other offensive shit you can buy. Buy it up. And start cashing in, because you might as well.
Sure. It's all going to get gone.
I wanted to make sure that we just kind of started with the understanding, again, what we talked about last week about what cancel culture is before we get into what you can actually do about it. And one of the things that I have been advocating for over and over and over again is building a community. You have to have a community that looks out for you. Greg Abbott doesn't get much of a say in my community. I'm not going to kick him out, but he doesn't get much of a say because he will sell you out.
Apparently,
the way he sold out Gab, the way he sold out everybody else who wanted to have a place to go after they got kicked out of Facebook and Twitter. He said, oh, well, you don't even get Gab. After he said, well, they need to have a place to go, but you don't get Gab. Screw you, dude. So that's why you need to have a community of people that you can rely on. And it needs to be face-to-face. It can't be these faceless politicians that, that don't even know you by name. Right? If they do know you by name, that's one thing, right? And I know some, like I said, I know some candidates, I know some politicians. I wouldn't say that I'm in good with them to the point where they would look out for me specifically, but I would like to make sure that I have some friends in office, and I think everybody should have some friends in office so that they know that they're being looked out for somewhere, right? That's representation. And we can do that if you get local. You can't do that if you focus on national politics. So I'm just going to keep saying that over and over again until that gets through some people's thick skulls. But that's what's important. So I'm not saying you got to go around canceling Disney Plus. If you enjoy the Mandalorian show, which I've said before, it doesn't do much for me. But I'm not saying you should cancel it. But what I am saying is that you should engage in content that cares about your values.
Yeah.
So again, Gina Carano, she's uncancelable, really. Right? She has canceled out Disney by getting involved in work with Daily Wire.
Right.
So whatever she comes out with, watch it. You may or may not like
Absolutely.
it, but watch it.
Absolutely.
Daily Wire is going to be putting out some stuff.
They've already put out a great movie.
I still need to watch it. I still need to sign up for Daily Wire.
Run, Hide,
Fight. Yeah, I saw the Twitter.
Oh man, it is really good.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you right now.
All right. Well, okay. I'm gonna quit screwing around. I'll sign up for the Daily Wire because that's what I'm telling everybody else to do. But that's the kind of thing you should be looking for. You should be looking for content that you can be entertained by. You can listen to this show, right? And spread the word about this show so we can start getting some advertisers and we can have a reason to be able to continue doing this. You can look out for people who are looking for work. Right. So again, Gina Carano got fired and immediately picked up by somebody else.
Right.
If you're the kind of person who wants to be, if you want to make sure you cancel out cancel culture, what you need to do is you need to get involved with a community and get your name out there so people know who you are. Mm-hmm. So that if you lose your job, you at least have a network you can tap into. It doesn't guarantee anything.
Right.
But I mean, any work that I've ever gotten mostly has been through a network.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Right. I mean, the first real job I had out of college was because I knew some people who knew some people who knew some people. That's right. So, so that's what you got to do. You need to get involved, and you need to again. I go back to this that we talked about last week. You cannot allow outsiders to determine the makeup of your community, of your group, of your culture.
Right.
They shouldn't get a say.
Right.
So if you find out that somebody you know personally or anybody in your community has done or said something that you don't like, and especially if you find that out from an external source, that should not be the determining factor.
Right.
You should not allow somebody else to decide the makeup of your community and the makeup of your group.
Right.
That's insane that you would even let that happen. Right. Everybody has a past. Everybody has done and said things that they regret or shameful, or maybe even that they don't regret.
Sure.
But everybody has that.
Right.
You know, and the left will dig up your past, especially if you become a little too big for your britches. That's what they will do.
Oh, yeah.
And it's up to the community, a good community, a close-knit community that looks out for each other to go, you know what? We understand that everybody has baggage. Yeah. And we're not going to reject you over that.
Right.
Now, if you completely undermine our values, that's a different thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know the next thing that somebody is going to say is, well, racism or anti-Semitism or things like that are not part of our values. Well, that's...
Duh.
And I understand that, but here's the thing. Again, everybody has said something awful.
Yeah, sure.
Right? That they would regret or are shameful or are just, they thought they were just being funny.
Yeah.
And should they be canceled for that? Because in my opinion, that's not even racism.
Well, that was kind of...
And maybe they were racist in the past, but they're not now. Do they get a second chance or not?
Well, and my thing is, especially with something as just petty as making a comment or whatever...
Or an off-color joke.
Right. That is not exemplary of who you are as a person. Now, if you go around spouting, on a consistent basis this racist crap, then okay, yes,
that's a different story because you're going out of your way to push something that undermines your culture and undermines your values.
Right.
That is different.
Exactly.
But if somebody has said something off-color, in a tweet, in a Facebook post, or especially in private, and you're going to let that be the determining factor on whether or not you ostracize them from your community, then you're never going to be able to have a community.
Well, no.
Ever.
No.
Because nobody is a saint.
Right.
Nobody.
Right. I mean, okay, so for the listeners, let's talk about your drunk texts. Let's talk about the stuff that you said when you were just absolutely distraught and upset before in your life. I mean, come on. Everybody, to some degree, has this.
Everyone has it.
A bigger, a larger number, a larger percentage, or a worse instance on the scale of whatever you want to mark it at, whatever you want to label it as. But everybody, to some degree, has this kind of stuff. And we cannot operate this way in society.
No, we can't.
It's just untenable. We're going to end up... Before long, we're just going to end up killing each other over this kind of crap. I mean, I'm typically not
wings.
the cynical one, but that's kind of where this all leads in the end. It may be a slow roll to get there, but we're already getting to the point that we cannot cohabitate with other people that don't have our political beliefs. We can't talk to them. We can't be friends with them. We can't be doing any of that kind of stuff already. So where's that going to go once that's the norm?
Right.
It's only going to go further.
Well, and maybe it's okay that people who don't share politics don't share a community and don't share a culture anymore. Right? Maybe it's okay.
With that, though.
Well, if your politics are communist.
Well, okay, but...
Well, and a lot of these people's politics are. They're very much based on
understand.
Marxism and communism, right?
But
so
at the
to
same
some degree, they
time-
don't belong in our culture. And we don't have to or shouldn't have to. And this is, again, and I don't think that's cancel culture. The whole point is that ostracism is supposed to protect your culture. And these people are going out of the way to undermine it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I do think that wherever you can, they should be ostracized.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that I can understand. Yeah, I don't know. Because... See,
this is why this is going to be a long
it's hard because
discussion.
It's really hard because I know where this goes, and this goes the way of echo chambers and all that kind of stuff, and that's why I'm hesitant to agree with that. Because do we have to agree with them? No, absolutely not. Should we do everything to keep them away from positions of power and things like that? Sure, just like they're doing to us. Let's be honest. But I don't know if I would even go as far as ostracizing, because I understand we're very different and completely different in a lot of things. But to completely get rid of that, to me, seems like what they are doing to whitewash history of the Confederate, the existence of Confederate statues and all this other kind of stuff. To me, it kind of goes down that same path. And that's why I am hesitant to...
I understand what you're saying, but the reality is that you have a culture that needs to be protected.
Oh, absolutely.
And it cannot be protected if it's infiltrated. That's the problem.
Well,
that's the point.
Yeah, and that's why I say you keep them out of power.
And ostracism, again, I'm not saying that that every possible connection that you have to any Marxist or communist needs to be severed. That's probably unrealistic,
Right.
But where you can, you should, or at least you should prioritize people that do share your values over people that don't.
Definitely that.
And that's what I mean by ostracism. Again, this isn't about telling you don't get to have a seat at any table. It's just that you don't get a seat at my table. So again, if I'm an employer, I don't want a communist working for me because they don't even believe I should have the right to own my business. So why would it even make sense to have a communist working in my employ? Right?
Okay,
especially if I have the option instead to hire somebody who does appreciate and approve of capitalism.
Even if the communist is more merited to have the job?
They're automatically less merited by being a communist.
But and
that is a merit discussion. That's an absolutely merited discussion, because if they completely undermine your business, then it doesn't matter how good at their job they are. They could be phenomenal at their job, but if they destroy your business because they don't believe you should own the business,
right? And I get
then
that.
They're not merited.
But this is already what's happening to conservatives, and this is why I kind of don't advocate for this in particular, just because this is happening already. Like, I've been discriminated against when I was looking for a job based on certain things. Regardless of whether it was political or not is neither here nor there to me. I don't think that anything like that, because here's the thing. If they are advocating for the undermining of your business while they're your employee, yes, you do have a right to fire them.
What I'm saying is
what I don't want... See, I don't think that, since this is already happening on some level, that us doing it back is necessarily the right answer.
It's not a retaliation.
But it kind of is.
It's not.
Kind of is.
Okay, so here's why it's not. I'm not doing it because I want to punish them. Again, if they want to have a seat at another table, they're welcome to sit somewhere else.
I understand your intent and the reason behind it, but the outcome is still the same.
It's not.
It is.
Okay.
If you're not, but in that situation, if I'm the person that is the communist and you don't hire me, I still don't have a job based on my political belief. As opposed to if I'm a conservative, and this company over here doesn't hire me, I still don't have a job because I'm a conservative.
No, here's why it's different, right? The conservatives who, like us, who would engage in the kind of ostracism that I'm advocating for, are not taking away or going out of our way to try to take away every other opportunity that they might have.
Sure.
That's a major difference. It's not trivial. So, for example, we go back to the Dr. Seuss example. Those books were canceled so that nobody could have access to them anymore. It wasn't just that. So, like, I'm not going to go buy Michelle Obama's book, right? Because I don't care for her. I think her book's probably going to suck.
Right.
So
she sucks.
Right. And I'm just not interested in reading that crap. Now, am I going to go to all their publishers and say, you guys better stop publishing those books, or I'm going to go out of my way to destroy your business in any way that I possibly can? No. And that is the big difference. Same in this situation with your employment.
But see, you're talking about canceling. I'm not talking about canceling. I'm just talking about, for lack of a better term, discriminating against someone based on a political belief. Because, like
discrimination isn't always a bad thing.
And see, I don't know. I mean, not always.
I discriminate against men when it comes to my sexual preferences.
Agreed.
Okay, so discrimination isn't always a bad thing.
Right, but that's not the context we're talking about. I'm talking about in political beliefs. If, especially, like, overall, I'm a business person, business-minded person. If somebody has the ability to do something greater than the other person, I don't care. Like, their political beliefs is neither here nor there to me. Now, like I say, if you hire them and they actively advocate against your business, that's a different story, because they are your employee at that point. But I'm talking about from the get-go, if I'm just in this hypothetical, if we're talking about just hiring somebody, I don't know that I would even go that far, because especially if my business, like my personal business, doesn't have anything to do with politics, anything to do with that. I've worked with people from different lifestyles. I've worked with people of different political beliefs. Most of them don't share my political beliefs and whatever, and it's neither here nor there.
Now remember, though, I did qualify it earlier by saying that it's not realistic to cut all ties everywhere.
Agreed.
So if you are better off hiring a communist than you are a capitalist because they are just that much better and they're not actively undermining your business, I mean, I still don't like it, but I understand.
No,
I'm not going to judge anybody for making that decision. But what I am saying is, all things being equal, you got a capitalist and a communist, and they're more or less going to be the same candidate. Go with the capitalist every time. That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
All right. Now, again, I do not think that is canceling. No. I do think that it's ostracism.
Yes.
But that's the good. Ostracism is good. Canceling is not.
Right.
So, anyway, so that's ultimately what I think the takeaway that I wanted from this particular discussion is for people to make sure that they focus on their communities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it is really hard for somebody to roll over on you the better that they know you and the more that you connect with people.
Right.
It's easier to have floorboards you can hide under if you are... I mean, sorry, but I don't care. I'm invoking it. They want to do it, I'm going to do it too, and that is in retaliation. But it is a lot easier to have floorboards you can hide under if you have people in your community, and that is exactly what Jews did.
Oh, yeah.
That is exactly what happened.
For sure.
Is they found floorboards they could hide under that were people that would look out for them because they knew it wasn't just some random Jew under your floor. Right. It was somebody that they were connected. They were neighbors. It was people that they cared about about them, that they did stuff for, that they borrowed sugar from, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And see, the crazy part is this isn't anything new. I mean, in the church culture, we've been doing this for years. Like, one of the first places I go to for advice for anything in life is typically one of the guys that I go to church with. When I'm looking for a job, I always put feelers out to anybody who I know has connections in our church. That way, hey, they come as a good reference if I'm a good worker, if they know that. Two, they probably know more people like me, like them. So I'm probably going to go work for a decent human being as opposed to some stranger I don't even know anyway.
Right.
Like, that's
but those are all things that you're looking for somebody else to do for you, which is great.
Well, no, that's part of the community, though.
But what you got to do,
because if I wasn't part of the church community, that couldn't happen.
It's because you put in the time.
Absolutely.
Though, and that's the thing that the action that people should take first is to find where they can contribute and what they can volunteer their time for, right? And that's what I mean by it, right? So you couldn't put those feelers out if you weren't already putting in the work, putting in the time, putting in your resources to build a better community. Right. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to encourage people to do. It's not just go out and ask your friends for jobs and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that's what you did, because you went out.
I mean, it kind of is.
Well, you put out your feelers because you already had put in your efforts and energies into a community in the first place. And you have to do that first.
Well, sure.
You can't just expect people to do things for you just because you agree with each other on shit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've been there for over 5 years at this point. So that's 5 years of time invested in things like that. People
That's what it is. It's an investment. Invest in your community, and they will invest in you back.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's how you protect yourself, I think, from cancel culture.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. So. And that's the easiest way, because this doesn't really require a ton of effort. You show up. Here's something I do know. You show up when somebody needs you one time. That's going to change especially the first time, especially, is going to change their opinion of you right away. And you are of value to them in that situation. You don't just show up and just like stare at them or whatever. Right. You actually show up, do work or whatever.
Although showing up is half the battle.
Absolutely. So you do that one time for somebody, it will change their opinion of you almost immediately, overnight. You do that on a continual basis, or even a semi-continual basis. Whenever they ask, or maybe you can't every time they ask, but maybe it's every couple weeks or month or whatever. Somewhat on a somewhat semi-regular basis.
Do not let yourself be forgotten.
You will gain that person's trust.
Do not let yourself be forgotten. Show up, make a good impression, and then maintain the connection.
I mean, we're not talking about anything crazy either. It's like, hey, can you help me do some landscaping? Can you help me pour some mulch? Like, it's not anything crazy.
Invite people over for dinner. That's what I do. That's my. I mean, I seriously, that's what I do it all the time. I bring people over for dinner, because I just enjoy. So do something that you love to do, and do it for somebody else. It goes a long way, and you already love to do it anyway. I love cooking, and it's really hard for me to eat an entire brisket by myself. So
wouldn't be hard for me.
Well, I could, not in one sitting though.
No,
that's my point.
I'm not that fat.
But I also honestly, I feel good about myself when somebody eats my food and they're like, "Oh man, that's so good, Max." Right? So like, it's Food's things like that. It's not helping somebody move every Sunday. It's do what you love and do it for somebody else. And you get it back in spades. And this sounds like a lot of personal advice, and it is. It's personal and professional advice. Professional. Coined a new one there. But it's also, there's so much that benefits the community. And if you benefit that community, then I believe that we can see a political impact in our local elections, and if we grow that to our state and federal elections, we might see a difference. We might see a turnaround. But at the very least, we'll have insulated ourselves to some degree from the external systems that seek to take away our freedoms, take away our rights. And that's all I have to say about the cancel culture topic for now. That is a topic we will revisit more and more in the future. But I think next week we're going to focus on a new topic, just to make sure that we're branching out into some different things. But I think identifying cancel culture and discussing what we need to do to protect ourselves from it, I think, is very important.
For sure, it's important. It's super important, guys. The number one reason for suicide that is measurable is isolation. Is people feel alone. The easiest way to not feel alone is to get out involved with other people. Now, I know firsthand for sure, and so do we all do, that putting yourself out there sucks sometimes. I'm an introvert, and I hate it. I hate new social situations where I don't know people, or I know like one or two people, and all this other stuff. I mean, you saw it at the meetup the other week. It was like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Like,
what do I normally do with my hands?
So
it's hit or miss for me. It really depends.
So it sucks, but in the end, you meet some good people, you make good connections, and you start knowing people in that particular situation, in that particular context. And then as time goes on, you get to know more people, and you get to go to another social. Before long, you're not the person there who doesn't know anybody. Mm-hmm. And so
you're the guy introducing people.
Right. It becomes easy. Yeah. And so
people don't know to look out for you if they don't know you're there.
Well, right. And because they can't.
Right.
I mean, how can I help somebody that I don't know exists?
Exactly.
So even if that's just making one introduction at an event, I go to business network marketing events all the time. Mm-hmm. And usually I make one or two introductions, because if I make one or two good introductions, they're going to remember me.
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, I get a call or a text or something later in the week or in the next week saying, hey, really enjoyed talking to you because you spent time and talked to me. You weren't like all over the place or whatever. I'm like, cool, that's great. And I enjoy it too, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have talked to you.
Yeah.
But, I am not alone by any stretch of the imagination. Outside of my family and core friend group, there's people I can call if I need something and stuff like that. So, I could never say in my situation that I feel alone because I've insulated myself in that way. And so, even if it's just introducing yourself to one person a week, that person, make sure that person has some sort of potential. I don't want to make this sound transactional, but some sort of value.
It is
in your
all relationships
life.
Are transactional. There's nothing wrong with that.
I don't necessarily believe that, but
yeah, I do.
But make sure that person will have meaning in your life, not just some stranger that you'll never see again.
Oh yeah.
Make certain that this person is going to be. You're going to be around this person on a pretty consistent basis.
Invest your time in people that are worth investing the time in. Don't just invest in anybody.
Yes. So, all right.
Does that about wrap it up?
I think that wraps it up for this week. We will talk to you again next week, and
music is coming soon.
Yeah,
intro, outro. It's coming soon. I swear. I'm working on it.
We've got a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
That's going on in the background and whatever else. So hopefully we'll be on iTunes here by this time next week, and we'll see. But if not, we're just going to continue on and continue what we're doing, and hope that you do the same. Please don't kill the culture while we're gone.
Don't kill the culture, dude.
And we'll be back next time. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later.
See you.